water meters, old water meters. They open the lid, the meter reader, and take the reading. A lot of them have handheld computers and put in the reading, and it goes downtown. What the smart meters would do is they have a more advanced meter that does that they advertise to the city does one thing. It will raise your water bills. They brag about that they will have better low flow detection, and they estimate that they'll increase the water bills of Baltimore City residents by 10%.
I'm sure the arena players are looking forward to that. You know, they almost lost the arena players over a water bill.
Right.
Oldest black continual theater house, historic.
Right.
Over a water bill.
Right. So what happens is these new meters are installed, and they're installed with little radio transponders that will go to cell towers or other collectors, much like your cell phone, and eventually get to the city. These things are advertised as being able to, and the city requires that each new water meter give hourly readings 24 hours a day. There's 404,000 water meters, 24 hours a day. That means the city will be collecting 9.6 million pieces of data every day.
What are they going to do with all that data?
They don't seem to know what
they're going to put it into the blue light cameras. Remember those?
Exactly.
We got 9 of them just before the election. They were like, see, look what we did for your neighborhood. Let me tell you, them blue light cameras cause a syndrome, blue lightitis. Because that's all you see. You wake up in the daylight, you got blinking blue lights in your head.
Well, it's like tuberculation.
Yeah,
you got problems. So you're drinking stuff that's filling you up with iron and who knows what else.
Don't forget the lead.
And some lead. You have speed cameras that have been inoperative for
thank God,
for 6 months. But they just bought all of these speed cameras and they're sitting there in the warehouse.
And what's the other thing they tried to buy? When she first got down there, it was a big old bill. VoIP, the phones.
Oh, the
you forgot about that.
Right. The telephones that would have all of this fancy gimmickry.
They were like $1 billion, and they.
Well, then the thing is that again, none of the so-called smart telephones have been installed. She and Controller Pratt have been fighting over that. But what would really help Baltimore is, and I think we all know this, is incremental improvements. For example, if you have water meter problems, get management, good management. Instead of these grandiose plans that we have documented in not just this case, but in the Grand Prix and others, basically are contracts awarded to insiders and political contractors.
Payola. That's what they call it, payola.
Well, or pay to play. And what I like about this whole water meter process is you always have unintended consequences or other stuff. Because they have these radio transmitters in the water meter container, the old cast iron water meters that you see on your sidewalk in front of your house, all 400,000 of them will have to be replaced as part of this program with new plastic composite water meter lids so that the cell phone and the radio transmissions can go through.
Sounds like some chicanery. We're talking with Mark Reutter of the Baltimore Brew.
But I want you to know, Donnie, and your readers, it's very important to know that all the new composite water meters will be ADA approved. So if there is a disability person who on a wet day sees a water meter in the future, they can run right over it and not run into problems. So we're paying for that. ADA approved smart water meters.
That's it?
That's it. Well, for 85 million, or 83, which is better than 185. Now that's based on what is before the Board of Estimates. You never know until the actual gavel gets thrown down. The Dynas folks have already put in a protest and will be fighting it tomorrow and are certainly screaming and yelling right now in City Hall.
And this comes on the heels of right after Harbor Point. Was that a fiasco? I mean, there's some people who say Harbor Point, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I come to find out that they got a check to say that.
Well,
they got paid.
We got, a lot of coverage. Again, it's a question that if the developers wanted to build Harbor Point, great. Let them develop it. They have the land. But they don't want to develop it. They want $107 million in essentially our money. It's very trickily done. It's actually deferred property taxes, but it's loss of revenue. We also reported that in addition to that, the city plans to divert $95 million in federal highway money that would be going to highway projects around the city, like the bridges, Edmondson Avenue, and others that they say are about to fall down. And $95 million over the next 5 years will be diverted also to Harbor Point.
Okay, but Mark, you just telling me you're telling me that they couldn't find $1 million for the recreation centers. I don't even care about steal all you want. But recreation centers, and for a boneheaded councilman, I'm sorry, my bad, Omega, to propose that our kids got to pay $10 to go to a recreation center. I mean, steal all you want, but take care of the kids. Now, I know that's not responsible, but I mean, all of the dirt you're doing, you can't look out for the kids. I mean, it's like the drug dealers. If you go up to the drug dealer and say, hey, we're trying to get some bags or something for the homeless during Thanksgiving, the drug dealers will give you some money. Politicians are more cutthroat than drug dealers.
Well, they have their own priorities, and you can see by this is that it's...
But they say they want to help the people and serve the people. You know all of them kumbaya stories they sing when they want your vote?
Right. Well,
the black ones, too. I'm especially talking about the black ones.
The big problem now with Harbor Point, now that the city has offered all this money, offered all this federal highway money, which again is unclear, all of this money coming in, is there's real questions. We wrote a story about it yesterday, whether the project will actually get built because they neglected or thought they could finesse the one big problem on why that 27 acres hasn't been developed for the last 30 years.
Contaminated?
It is contaminated with one of the most dangerous forms of any chemical, which is known as hexavalent chromium.
Hexavalent chromium. That sounds dangerous.
It is. It's the toxic form of chromium. It's extremely dangerous.
Chromium is in phones also, used for telephones?
It's used for paints. It's used for, the chrome on cars. It gives that shiny thing.
Okay.
There was a Baltimorean named Tyler who invented this process back in the 1850s.
Thanks, Tyler.
And actually his son built Silburn House. That's sort of the house of chromium, that the house that Chromium built. But chromium is very lethal stuff. There was the old Allied chemical plant there that was the biggest chromium plant in the world. It was so bad it was finally closed down in 1985. Some of you would remember the problems down there. Instead of taking the chromium-contaminated soil out, which would have been the permanent solution, they decided to bury it. And they have around a 6-foot thick membrane cap over that, which is why when you look at Harbor Point, it almost looks like a parking lot. And there's also a wall to keep it from, we are told, from leaking into the harbor.
And you don't believe that. I don't believe that. It doesn't even sound right.
Well, the EPA, which is, not the city council and doesn't take its orders from Ryan Potter or other lobbyists, have, raised some serious questions about how the developer will be able to pierce the cap. This is what's going to go on. To build the Exelon Tower,
you got to dig in that dirt.
Yeah, and what people don't realize, the plan is to put 1,100 pilings as well as other excavations so that the cap will soon start looking like Swiss cheese. And how are you going to keep rainwater and the dust coming out of here from getting all through the atmosphere and draining out into the harbor? And that's the questions that might cause serious problems after, and the city shouldn't have had all of this. They had 30 years to figure this out. Instead, they pushed ahead to get this money, committed the city. All of this time and treasure have gone into this. And
why don't they just read the Baltimore Brew? Why don't they just hire you to go and look into it for them? Because you're the only paper, you're the only news outlet that covered this story.
No, the Sun has covered the story pretty well in terms of Harbor Point.
My bad. I don't
in terms of
Unless I'm on the front page.
The water meter story, they've written some of it. We've dragged him into it, and so I used to work for the Sun. I respect it, or respect the old Sun, and but we're here to. We're professional reporters. Fern Shen and I work for the Sun. She worked for the Washington Post as well. What we want to bring is detailed fact-based and smart investigative journalism into the city because we think it's so needed. And we've gotten, in the 3 years it's been running, we've gotten tremendous response. We have 50 to 60,000 readers, which is pretty amazing.
That's huge.
That's huge. And so we like to get the word out, and we're working here. We do a lot of community stories. I'll be up in Edmondson Village Thursday doing some reporting there.
You going up in the village?
Yeah, I spent a lot of my childhood at Edmondson Village. My grandparents lived nearby.
Good stuff.